If you clicked on this video, you might be having the same experience as me. I never considered the possibility that I might have ADHD until I started getting a lot of this kind of content on social media.
Here are 6 struggles that people with ADHD face on a daily basis.
No person with ADHD has all 5 things.
Such a chill guy. How do you have ADHD?
It seems like I might not be the only one experiencing this.
So a lot of my patients would hold up their phone to the camera and be like, here's this video that I saw on TikTok, and this is why I have ADHD.
ADHD diagnoses and prescriptions have been increasing in adults since before the days of social media. The number of ADHD diagnoses in 2010 were almost 5 times what they were in 1999. And between 2007 and 2016, the number of diagnoses of ADHD in adults more than doubled. With that rise comes more treatment. There's been a 16% increase in prescriptions for generic Adderall within the past year.
The reason that it's treated with medication is that it is a true psychiatric disorder.
There are dozens of different medications that are FDA approved to treat ADHD that go back decades. And these medications are lucrative for the companies that manufacture them, especially as more adults get diagnosed and seek out treatment.
The first medication I tried was Vyvanse, and when I went to go pick that up at the pharmacy, it was $200 because there's not a generic version of it. So I went back to my doctor like, can we try something else?
Vyvanse is also benefiting from the fact that we shifted more effort into the adult ADHD market, which is now more than half of the overall market.
The ADHD drug market in the United States was valued at $8.7 billion in 2021, up from $7.6 billion in 2020. But the U.S. is currently experiencing a shortage of stimulants, which is causing a lot of issues for patients and providers.
And there's such a huge mismatch between supply and demand. What often happens is other things will go in to kind of fill that vacuum of demand. Part of that, I think, is people looking to social media for answers.
And I've had patients had to go up to 15 different pharmacies to try to get their medication filled.
So why are more people seeking out ADHD diagnoses? And can the U.S. keep up with the demand? ADHD has a lot of symptoms that can vary from person to person, and I identify with many of them, so I was very confused. And I convinced my boss to let me do a video on this, so I reached out to Dr. Leonard Adler, who runs the adult ADHD program at the NYU Grossman School of Medicine, in order to try to make sense of all of this. Can you explain to someone who's never heard of ADHD what it is?
So we'll use the term ADHD to encompass all attention deficit disorders. You have to have significant symptoms for at least 6 months, and those are the inattentive symptoms and the hyperactive impulsive symptoms. You have to have 5 of 9 of the inattentive and or 5 of 9 of the hyperactive impulsive. The inattentive symptoms are trouble paying attention, easy distraction, forgetfulness, and the hyperactive impulsive symptoms include restlessness, impulsivity, trouble sitting still.
Not only do people have to have the symptoms, but they also need to have what we call functional impairment, or kind of evidence of clinical impairment, which is that the symptoms themselves are enough to cause a lot of disruption to the person's life.
The roots of the disorder have to go back to childhood. You don't have to be diagnosed as a child, but you have to have significant symptoms going back before the age of 12.
I realized that I may have had ADHD after my mom was diagnosed with ADHD in 2016. Just because I am a lot like her, I figured that would be the possibility that I would also have it. But I didn't seek testing or a diagnosis until last year, when I realized that it was affecting my personal and professional life a lot more than it was in 2016. I definitely had ADHD as a child. I was school safety patrol. I love this picture of me. Looking back at my grades and seeing that it's like, oh, I have an A, but the feedback is, pretty careless about making mistakes, like not going back and checking my work. I just really did not have the attention span or interest to go back and carefully review things before I would submit it.
The thing about ADHD is that the symptoms are very relatable, and relatability thrives on social media. People like to watch content that resonates with them.
If you pick a horoscope at random, chances are you'll pick a horoscope that will possibly pretty accurately describe how your day went or how your day is going. And there's almost a similar effect sometimes with some of these videos, which is it can describe something that may very well be on the spectrum of a normal experience, a non-pathological, non-ADHD experience that even someone like myself might struggle with.
All of us have some symptoms of trouble paying attention and being distracted and feeling restless. But the issue is, have you had it more or less throughout your lifespan, and is it causing significant impairment? That's what makes it a disorder. But if you just had symptoms and no trouble from the symptoms, we wouldn't make a diagnosis.
One media analysis of popular TikTok videos found that talking about mental illness on social media can be tricky.
About half of the videos that we had sampled contained misleading or potential misinformation. And most of these videos, what we found were that they were uploaded typically by users of the platform. Not a lot of healthcare professionals were on the platform, and typically it was mostly user-generated content.
Dr. Sasha Hamdani is a board-certified psychiatrist and an ADHD clinical specialist who also has ADHD herself.
There's a lot of bad information out there. Let me just try to put some counter information on there. And I made a couple of videos.
I was diagnosed with ADHD in 4th grade, and I basically dedicated my entire life to learning about the brain.
The creative process was fun for me. And so then that just kind of grew.
Do people actually have ADHD after coming in because they looked at TikTok?
Maybe 50-50. So it's important to figure out where is this stemming from? So a lot of times people present to me and they're like, this is what's going on. I think it's ADHD, and they're deep down the rabbit hole of social media. And then you start talking to them and you start digging out other symptoms and trying to find cause. And then you're like, well, does this explanation make more sense? And they're like, oh yeah, that is what that is. It's not ADHD. So it's kind of this shifting thing.
I think increased awareness is always what I would call a double-edged sword. I think we've definitely moved into an area of talking about mental health that's really positive. There's much less stigma. People are really willing to open up about their mental health diagnoses. And I think that's a really wonderful thing. The other side of this kind of double-edged sword, though, is sometimes if we're talking about mental health symptoms or diagnoses, we then run the risk of perhaps misconstruing, again, things that are on the spectrum of normal as being pathological.
So what we're seeing now is that there are a lot of people seeking out treatment for ADHD all at once, and that sort of influx in demand can have some issues, especially in a healthcare system that's already stretched thin.
We have a 6-month waiting list to get in, and we're incredibly busy. Some of that's from the pandemic, but I think there's a general need for services at this point.
I'm still trying to find a psychiatrist after getting the diagnosis, but in the meantime, I do have a counselor that I have once a week phone calls with. It's not ADHD specific, so I'm still trying to find the best way to treat and manage the ADHD symptoms.
Since the pandemic, I think it's become more part of the conversation, and we're talking about ADHD more, which may drive people to approach it more with their physician and possibly more treatment that way. Globally, do I think that there's more ADHD? I don't know. No, I don't. I think it's a neurodevelopmental thing. I think it's probably steady. But I think that people are becoming more aware of it. So I think that maybe from that population that was previously undiagnosed, we're starting to pull more from that.
I'm at the office now, hybrid life. So medication is one option for treating ADHD. It's not the only option, but it is a route a lot of people choose to take. The pharmaceutical market to treat adult ADHD has been growing over the past several decades. Medications can be either a brand name or generic.
Brand name medication is the one that they're specifically formulated, that go through the FDA trials. It is this carefully put together chemical product. A generic is where they're looking at that chemical product and they're saying oh, are there certain places in this manufacturing process or components of that we could make a little bit cheaper. A generic is totally fine.
One frequently discussed medication is called Vyvanse. It's under patent, which means that only the brand name is available, and that can have consequences for consumers.
I was prescribed Vyvanse, but I asked my doctor to let me try another medication because the Vyvanse was really expensive.
The cost for 30 pills of Vyvanse averages around $430 without insurance, while the generic form of Adderall, which directly competes with Vyvanse, costs about $50. Vyvanse used to be produced by a biotech company named Shire, but it was taken over in 2019 by Japanese company Takeda Pharmaceuticals. Earlier in the video, you heard the then CEO of Shire talking on a 2015 conference call about how the adult ADHD medication market was outpacing the children's market. So Vyvanse was making the company a lot of money, and it still is. Takeda, the current producer of Vyvanse, took in a revenue of more than $25.5 billion in the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2022. Vyvanse brought in more than $2.3 billion. Takeda is a publicly traded company on the NYSE with more than a $45 billion market cap. Vyvanse's patent is set to expire in August 2023, which means other manufacturers will be allowed to produce a generic version of the drug, and that's likely going to hit Takeda's bottom line, but it will offer patients a more affordable option. When asked for comment, Takeda pointed to its most recent earnings call.
The Vyvanse impact will be more heavily weighted in 2023, for sure. There will be some carryover in 2024, but the majority as a proportion will be impacting us in 2023.
Even generic medications aren't immune to consumer issues. The FDA announced on October 12, 2022, that there was a shortage of both the brand name and the generic form of Adderall in the United States.
I am on a stimulant medication that I can't pronounce because it's not Adderall. My doctor didn't want to prescribe me Adderall because of the Adderall shortage, and she didn't want me to have an issue getting it.
Logistically, it's been a nightmare for patients and providers. Because they're so highly controlled, you can't just transfer it. You have to cancel a script. You have to then go find another pharmacy that has it. By that time, it might not be filled because other people have filled it there. And that's extremely frustrating for the patient.
There are clear alternatives to medications. Cognitive behavioral therapy can be quite helpful, especially when there are co-traveling symptoms of what we term executive function deficits, which are higher level problems with organization, planning, procrastination, prioritization, working memory, keeping things in mind. Those things tend to be somewhat less responsive to medicines. Cognitive behavioral therapy is very interactive. You'll have a workbook where you'll work with the therapist on things like organization, planning, listening to others, using a calendar, and actually at the end of the number of sessions, you'll sit down and look and see what progress you've made and whether you want to continue to work. So it's not open-ended, it's very interactive and structured.
Trying to piece together like what is Andrea Miller and what is ADHD is an interesting line to try to draw in the sand. Well, I am my ADHD, and these personality traits that I know about myself, I just now get to see through this new lens of like, okay, well, you know, you probably forgot that because you have ADHD. Well, it's not just because you're lazy, it's not because you're stupid, it's because your brain literally works differently. So trying to figure out how to best work with my brain is still something that I am trying to figure out. It is a journey, to say the least.